With the tactics here, he's kept Eddie Cheever out, and Cheever picks up the lead. Remember, he nearly won the race at Nazareth on a good fuel strategy that went wrong only when he didn't get a full tank of fuel on the very last stop. There's Parker Johnstone, all these stops made under the green as he comes back up to speed. And as soon as the stops are complete, we'll reset the order for you. Cheever leads it. Brian Herta has not stopped either. He is in second place. 50 laps are complete. Cheever comes in. We expect Herta shortly, and then Parker Johnstone will pick up the lead once again. But in second place will now be Christian Fittipaldi, at least for the moment, who stopped on the 37th lap. Now here's that situation with Parker Johnstone. And he just slid past his pit and over the hose. And Bobby, I would think that that's a violation, is it not?
I've been waiting for the black flag to come up from Wally Dallenbach, because running over a hose brings out a stop and go penalty.
Yep.
There's a really close wreck between Fernandez and Johnstone right there. That really got close, causing Adrian to go back around.
And that's what they're going to do with Parker. It's going to be a black flag for Parker Johnstone. Brian Herta stalled his car.
You got to figure it's Johnstone's first stop, first pit stop ever in his life. He comes in, he doesn't know what the speed is like. They've been running 230 miles an hour.
Well, Paul, Brian Herta had a near miss and one full miss. First, he slid very similar to Parker Johnstone as he come into the pits. When they had completed their work, the crew started to set him down. He stalled the motor. They got it restarted, and he almost stalled it again. Some of these drivers are having a great deal of difficulty getting traction off the concrete.
You know, one of the reasons for that, the concrete is still fairly new, and it's a little bit rough on the top.
Now a correction. They've not called for a black flag on Parker Johnstone. They have called for one on Buddy Lazier. And we'll try and sort those two reports out for you and find out what the plans are. There is Parker's pit. The IndyCar officials there, Billy Camphausen there on the left. Traxon is in charge of that area of the pits. Gary Gerald, the Penske cars have both been in.
Before we address that, Paul, a quick word from Doc Peterson of Comtech on Parker Johnstone. What was the ruling they just gave you, the IndyCar official, on running over that hose?
Yeah, they said because only the front wheels went over the hose, there's no penalty.
So you dodged a big bullet right there.
Yeah, we sure did. He just misjudged on the carbon brakes. They were cold, and the car didn't stop.
Okay, thank you. Now, regarding the Penske team, there was a problem for both Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi. Jr., the jacks retracted. They had to send them down a second time. He was held an extra couple of seconds, a problem with an air gun, and there was a problem with a wheel wrench also for Emerson Fittipaldi that lengthened his stop just a bit. Both men did get away cleanly and are on the circuit now.
So Parker Johnstone has the lead once again. In second place is Christian Fittipaldi, due to stop any time now. We'll be back after these messages and a word from our ABC station. Well, a lot has happened in the past few minutes. Parker Johnstone had a display of smoke at the back of the car. May have serious engine problems. He's in the pits. Raul Boesel, the same sort of situation. Andre Ribeiro picks up the lead. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
Paul, as it turns out, it's not an engine problem for the Honda driven by Parker Johnstone. It's the upright on the right rear. It could be a wheel bearing, it could be a CV joint, but it's definitely in the upright. And just as Team Green did with Jacques Villeneuve, they are now changing, the Comtech team is changing the upright on the right rear for Parker Johnstone. Meanwhile, he sits under an umbrella trying to stay cool while his team works on that very hot suspension part. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Gary, one man that won't complete the 500 miles is Michael Andretti. And Michael, you were real strong, had a lot of horsepower, looked like, and then it went away, not all at once, but little by little.
Yeah, something started to develop a miss in the engine, and it got worse and worse to the point where I couldn't really stay out there. So I came in, they tried to replace everything, and went back out, and it still was missing. So we're done.
A lot of talk about 1996, especially with the performance in Indy and then the performance here again by the Honda engines. Could there possibly be Honda power in the future for Newman Haas Racing?
I don't know what's going to happen there right now, but the Hondas, they've done a good job, and it really showed this weekend.
Well, it's tough to see out.
Certainly showing right here, Andre Ribeiro in front, by the way. Gel de Ferran also came into the pits. They have the cowling off of his car now. And Ribeiro leads for the first time in his IndyCar career. Second is Tracy, third is Teo Fabi, then Scott Pruitt and Mauricio Gugelmin.
Ribeiro's domination suddenly in this 500-mile race, Paul, doesn't it remind you of the way the last 500-mile race almost ended, with Scott Goodyear running for the same team with the same mechanical setup as Ribeiro has now, almost winning that race?
I think the main thing we got to start watching for today, we've seen too many of these right rear upright bearings going bad. And that's what everybody else, now all the mechanics and the team leaders up and down pit row are talking to each other and figuring this stuff out. So they're going to be checking their cars and telling their drivers on the radios, if you feel something weird on the right rear, come in and let's check it, because that's a very dangerous thing. If that bearing seizes up, something breaks back there, it's a guaranteed wreck if they're still up to speed.
And now they've indicated Raul Boesel is retired with an engine problem. Scott Pruitt, he started 12th, now runs in 3rd. Here is Brian Herta, who runs 13th now. We'll take a lap with him.
Watch his hands. This shows you how smooth the racetrack is. Right here now, it used to be real rough. Their hands used to take a big step. Coming out of turn 4 here now. Up really close to the wall. Kind of straighten this little dog leg on the front straightaway out. Wide open, never backing off. Remember, with 40 inches of boost, they don't have a lot of pressure. Into turn 1, going right by Penske's new office and bases. Coming out of turn 2, really close to the wall again, down the back straightaway, takes a hand off the steering wheel, very relaxed. Now he can do that on this new track because it's paid. Just didn't do it in the old days or like a year ago. But just watch him. Very easy, his head is leaning over against the right, pulling probably 2.5 or 3 G's in the turns. Down the front straightaway again, right by the start-finish line there. Easy on the steering wheel, not a bit of problem. Takes no pressure to turn that steering wheel right now. Then
Gil de Ferran, where we told you he was in the pits. There's Jim Hall. Gary Gerould?
Yes, indeed. De Ferran having a problem with the electronics. That was, of course, what brought Michael Andretti in initially. Like the Newman-Haas team, Jim Hall's team changed the electronic components, set him back out. We understand, however, from the crew, it is still not functioning the way they would expect it or want it to. So problems continue for Gil de Ferran.
And as a matter of fact, while he runs down the backstretch with a cluster of other cars, right behind him is the leader of the race, Andre Ribeiro, who closes up behind him and being quite careful in the pass. Saturday on ABC Sports, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway rolls out the red carpet for the stars of stock car racing. Defending champion and NASCAR points leader Jeff Gordon battles a field of the world's finest at the Brickyard 400 live. And then on ABC's Wide World of Sports, Dale Earnhardt and the world's top drivers battle in identical cars in the International Race of Champions. Plus, we begin coverage of the World Track and Field Championship from Gothenburg, Sweden. That's all Saturday here on ABC Sports. Al Unser Jr., by the way, has pulled up into 4th place now. So it's Ribeiro, Tracy, Pruitt, Unser Jr., and Teo Fabi, the top 5.
This is Ribeiro's best race by far this year. His finishing positions have been littered with positions in the teens, except for Elkhart Lake, where he finished 4th. He has never led convincingly like this.
Pruitt at the back of Tracy, battle for second. Goes Scott Pruitt as Tracy gets a little bottled up behind Gil de Ferran. And Tracy doesn't seem to be able to respond to that challenge readily.
Remember how Pruitt and de Ferran came together in the last laps of the race at Cleveland last week, putting de Ferran, who was leading the race at the time, out.
Raul Boesel out of the race. Let's go to Gary Gerould.
Raul, you want to go 500 miles. Did the power plant just give up in this heat today? What happened?
No, I'm an early spectator today, but my Duracell Lola was running fine. We even paced ourselves because we knew it would be a lot of mechanical problems this race, and you know, it just gave up too early.
How about the heat and the actual conditions on this new surface here?
No, everything's fine. It's not too bad. It's hot, but you know, the smoothness of the track make much easier this year.
We're sorry you're out. Thank you.
Thank you.
From time to time here, you'll see the number 12 car of Jimmy Vasser. He had a 39-second stop. He had trouble with his right rear as well. And he is running in 11th, trying to get back on the leader lap.
It's obvious that this track imposes. You see the battle for third. Now it's little Al Unser on the right there. He has come up so far from his grid position and now is threatening Paul Tracy. But it's obvious that this track imposes incredible loads on the suspension.
Another thing, when a guy is drafting like little Al, boy, look at him
drafted
coming up.
big time.
Boy, that was a draft.
Really got to run. I'm just starting to say, the drafting is free. Boy, you can get a tow better than getting with a tow car helping you out. Just really get a big suction.
So Unser Jr. up to third place. Jack Arute, Penske's looking strong here.
And Paul, his performance, that of Al Jr., may have been preceded by his lack of performance in Indianapolis. Let's go all the way back to the Memorial Day Classic. Remember, little Al was the only driver of the two between he and Fittipaldi to try and stick with the Penske. The reason he said after the race is, I wanted to get that car in the field because it may be slow, but in race conditions, as he goes by Scott Pruitt, in race conditions it drives like a Cadillac. It's just a breeze to drive. He doesn't qualify well, but he wanted a car that could go 500 miles in comfort. And in the heat, and the humidity, and the pressure of today, it seems to be paying off for Team Penske.
Al Unser Jr. around Scott Pruitt into second place and just puts his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi, who's running 12th, one lap down. Let's go to Gary Gerould.
In the Derek Walker pit, of course, no Robbie Gordon today, so that puts it on the shoulders of the rookie who was second in the Indy 500, Christian Fittipaldi. He thought that he had a problem in his first experience here at Michigan. It turned out what he thought might have been a wheel bearing failure at the rear of the car, the wheel balance fell off, and so the car out of balance. He brought it into the pits, tires changed, he's back out there, Paul.
Well, Scott Pruitt running through the field. Bobby, I want to look at his onboard shot.
Look at that
Bobby,
tire.
Look at the front tire. Does that tell us anything?
Well, all that is a little hair growing around it. It really isn't anything wrong. It could possibly be a blister, but it's not likely. The reason you can kind of tell that is Scott hasn't slowed down all that much. And it doesn't seem to be getting any worse. The rubber should start throwing off pretty quick if it was a blister. Or if it is, now look right there, it kind of went away. I think what we'll see is if it's a blister, he'd be in by now.
Well, I love these high-tech explanations. Little hair growing on the tire, says Bobby Unser. Andre Ribeiro leading for the first time in an IndyCar race. Out in front. Al Unser Jr. is second, 78. Second round of stops beginning now as Paul Tracy has made a stop in the pits. Routine under green, in and out. Leader is still Andre Ribeiro, followed by Al Unser Jr. and Scott Pruitt. Goodyear has a formidable presence here at the Michigan International Speedway, not only on the track, but also above the track with the Goodyear blimp Spirit of Akron hovering overhead, providing us with spectacular aerial views. So now we anticipate stops by everyone in the field, save Tracy, who has just made a stop. The question, Jack Arute, I would suggest to you, though, is tire wear.
Well, Paul, we may see the first chink in the armor here in the Teo Fabi pit. They had to pit 5 laps earlier than they had hoped to because of a blistered right rear. It's right behind there. You can see the blisters on the tire there. So the first thing that the tire engineers do when they see a blistering situation is check the black book. Check the tire pressures. Check what conditions the tire ran under.